So I'd like you to pay attention to this, and let's go with it. So thank you, Jennifer. Let's play the first one. Oh, by the way, Jen, can you just stop for a second, just for a second? Okay. So I just wanted to warn you, this is about, Jen, thank you. This is about a couple, and the man in this couple relationship is almost disillusioned. He is upset with his wife, the way their marriage is going. And so it's basically kind of pay attention to the interaction. A very disillusioned, upset, angry man who's coming to some realizations in his midlife. Right. Thank you, Jen. Please, sorry. Okay, Jen, you can play the other one also. I'm sorry that videos is good, but again, I think the internet connection is spotty. I think that's what the problem is. So let's play the second one too. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds or something.
What's wrong? I thought you said it was beautiful.
You are beautiful. You are so beautiful. I would be a very lucky man.
feel so stupid.
Don't.
I'm sorry.
So are you able to see the video, right?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, but I think it is spotty. It's kind of not really clear. So that's okay. Maybe we can play it later, I guess. So can we stop then? Because I think there's some problem with the internet. Okay, we will. Okay, people.
Darling, discussing his day at work. Why don't you tell our daughter about it, honey?
Janie, tell me about it, child. And then I told my boss to go fuck himself, and then I blackmailed him for almost $60,000. Asked this bear.
Okay.
Something to be proud
Can you hear it? Is it clear?
That I
Is it
killed
clear?
your wife, I fucking
Jen, we can stop it. We can stop the.
Oh,
You can stop the video. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
yeah.
I think. Yeah. I think there is some problem with the internet. Internet is not that great. It's not clear. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay, actually, these are two powerful clips from a movie. Maybe you should be able to watch it later on. Maybe Jen can forward it to you later at your own leisure. You can watch it. It's powerful stuff. It talks about the. Maybe we'll try it again at some point, but not now. It's about the powerful dynamics of a couple system. Two disillusioned couple members. Their love had grown cold between them, and they are not hesitant to destroy each other or humiliate each other in the presence of the child. The wife does a great job in the morning, making fun of him and just almost humiliating him. And the husband does it in the evening during dinner time. That's kind of it's a very powerful one. Anyway, so I was hoping that you would be able to watch it and see the dynamics. Since it was not very clear because of the internet issues, let's move forward. Okay, Jen, could you take me to Godman, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for trying, Jen. I really appreciate it.
So do you want to try with the playing the link, sir?
We can play it later, just a few minutes, maybe after the Godman is over. You can play the second one after. Yeah, I'll tell you. So we've been talking about couples. We've been talking about attachment patterns. We've been talking about different factors, affairs, all those kinds. Today I'm going to talk about one of the coolest models when you work with couples. Some of you may already know this in some ways. Godman methods. Godman methods are pretty powerful for me as a researcher and also as a clinician, because his studies, as you know, some of you may know, his research is primarily focusing on not just the distressed couples. Most of the research are on that, but also healthy couples. So his samples are always both. And he follows couples for a long time, for about 40. In some of the cases, he has been following couples for over 40 years. So kind of longitudinal study in that sense, for a very long time. And I was trained by him when I lived in Seattle, and then John Gottman and Julie Schwartz Gottman kind of were my mentors. And then I took, I was with them for almost a year before I moved to Connecticut. So again, Gottman methodology is extremely powerful in the sense that it brings systemic views and experiential views and psychology, and also he kind of brings together many forms, and I find it extremely useful. Unlike other methodologies, what Gottman provides is he provides a road map for the couple therapist to follow, as some of you know, and also there's a clear kind of way to move forward. And also his methods help us understand how the couples function in systems. Okay, that's kind of introduction. Okay, let's take it to the next slide, please. Then. So I think I talked about it already. You can move to the next one, please. Okay, so Gottman method of couple therapy developed from almost descriptive study. Those who are researchers know that what it means. Descriptive study and longitudinal studies based on describing what happens in the couple system, and also based on long-term studies. And he has something called Love Labs in Washington State, Seattle, where I was before. So what he would do is he would invite these couples to come to these love labs. Love labs are like almost like hotels, like apartments come hotels. There will be always cameras in every rooms except in bathrooms. So the couples check into these places on Friday evenings, and they spend the whole Friday evening, and everything is recorded, and the couples know that. And these are the couples participating in the studies, and they are there for the all day Saturday and almost until the evening of Sunday. So they kind of live their normal life. Everything is recorded. And so Godman looks at these kind of samples of many cases that he studied. So these data come from a love lab. So his research is descriptive, longitudinal, and also informed by research and clinical work based on both the distressed and the well-functioning couples, as I said. Please, next one. Most relationships, these are some of the assumptions of Gottman method, as you know. Most couples have a lot of conflicts. I mean, those who are married, you know that conflicts are part of our life, right? And they are natural and perpetual. There are people fight about even silly things. Every family. And so conflicts are not problematic in itself. But when the conflicts go, when couples cannot manage conflicts, then it becomes problematic. So conflicts are not a problem. In fact, Gottman would say conflicts are important for people because they are the pathways leading to intimacy. It helps people to negotiate and then work on their issues. So relationships are deeply influenced by personality, character of the couple, and their worldviews or belief systems, and the influence of socializations in what sort of upbringing the couple members had. And then also, Gottman would say, when choosing a life partner, one is choosing a set of unsolvable problems. So when you're in love, you don't see all these things, right? When you're married, or when you are getting involved in a relationship, you're also getting involved or marrying a bunch of problems. I am a bunch of problem myself to my wife, and my wife is a bunch of problem to me. So it's kind of, these are the unsolvable problems. So no matter how hard we try, those problems may not go away completely. There is no heaven in that sense. And also, those are the realities couples have to pay attention to. Next one, please. Positive changes in relationships can be, Gottman would say, people can change through education, psychoeducation, through kind of awareness about what relationships are, who I am, what I am, and also through prevention efforts and therapeutic interventions. Those are kind of very powerful integration of many things. Next one, please. So unhealthy couples, according to Gottman, is that unstable or unhealthy people are characterized by consistent and higher levels of escalation. So they go from the speed is like maybe a mild issue. They go from that mild issue to extremely severe issue quickly. It can matter of just 0 to 60 miles an hour. So all of us have conflicts, but again, these unhealthy couples go from a small issues to a big issue in a matter of seconds. They go into that. That happens consistently. And a lot of negative or extreme negative affects, anger and hostility and all those things in those kind of escalations. Next, please. Healthy couples, on the other hand, what they do, they have problems, they have conflicts, but they use very gentle and soft approach. When they have something about their partner, they have something to talk about, some disturbing things to talk about. They go softly, gently, not like a bang, they don't just come down quickly on that. They're gonna go slowly, and they use neutral and positive affect. They don't start the conversation with an angry face, but again, they go softly. Basically, they down regulate themselves. Basically, say for example, when I'm about to argue with somebody, my heart rate is up. I'm beginning to heat it up in my body. I can begin to my anxiety level is going up. All those things. So again, if I can down regulate myself, emotional regulate, if I can regulate maybe a bunch of breathing exercise and stuff if I can regulate myself, then I will be able to present what I have to say to that person. Otherwise, they may only hear or listen to my anger outbursts, not the content of what I say. Does it make any sense? People. So again, healthy couples down regulate themselves. And they also attempt to repair ruptures. Something happened between the couples. They try to repair the attempt. Say, for example, my wife and I, when we have conflicts, and she comes around in interesting ways. Again, she comes around in a very simple, silly way. Sometimes with a joke or something, with a cup of coffee for me, because I love coffee, different types of coffee. Or she just comes around because something happened, a disruption happened, a disconnect happened. She comes back to reconnect in some ways. Now I have two options. I can take that repair attempt and we can start over, or I can just still be mad and turn away from her, or get more upset with her and send her away by angry outbursts. So couple members always try to repair their ruptures in some ways. But again, healthy couples, they take those repair attempts early on, and then they work on it, and they also accept the offer for bid. They accept the bid for connection. Again, it's kind of funny thing. When I made a mistake, I have conflict with my wife, and I made a mistake, and then I know that I realize that I made a mistake, then it's my turn to go there. So I will go around in sheepishly and stupidly, sometimes in some ways, to just get to there. So then she understands it and she accepts it, and then we have a relationship. Again, repair attempts happen more frequently. They also use gentle and soft approach. Okay, please move to the next one. So again, Gottman would say every relationship is almost predictable. It is nothing, again, it's almost like a mathematical formula. You can compute pretty much. And based on his long-term research, this is what he says. Most relationship conflicts are not solvable, as I said before. They're perpetual, and they need to be managed. Like, for example, my wife and I still fight about like how we put the toilet tissues, or how we put certain. Again, there are simple things. Those are perpetual things. Whether we should keep the toilet lid open or closed, those kind of silly things. Again, those are perpetual realities. And also, many couples have gridlock conflicts. Again, conflicts is about like, they just go from, the same patterns come in, same patterns in the sense that although the content of the arguments may be different, the path is the same, or the real issue is the same. So it's about not being able to listen to, or not being able to respect. Those could be the gridlocks. So once the gridlocks, those are the common themes. Content could change as again we move from that. Once we have that particular gridlock, then we escalate from there. And couples who consistently escalate conflicts either end up in divorce. They have, again, consistency is the theme here. We all have trouble, right? Again, consistently escalating conflicts, those kind of things happen consistently. Either they end up in divorce, or what happens in Indian context, often they emotionally shut down with each other, and they are emotionally disengaged with each other. They get busy with their child rearing or parenting. They die in their couple relationships. Nothing happens in the couple relationship. There is no sexual relationship. There is no sexual intimacy. There is no nurturance. None of those things happens again. But they function as parents. That's what happens in it. And the next one, please. So masters of relationship, they would say, use gentle startup, as I said. They during conflicts, they soothe themselves. They're self-soothing, and they have general positivity in relationship. Positive affect. Things happen, negative things happen. Again, they keep it light often, and also they have a shared meaning system. Those I will talk about in the next few minutes. Okay, next one, please. These couple members have their own. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the predictors of divorce or breakdown. This is, again, some of you are very, very familiar with that, but I just wanted to run through it one more time quickly. Gottman would say, actually, the video clip I wanted to show you, the second one, address all these four. I wanted to set it up before we dealt with it. Anyway, let me just say it. There are four horsemen of apocalypse, he calls it. If those things are present in couple's life, that relationship is going to die sooner or later. And he says, criticism. It doesn't mean that people cannot, we're talking about consistent criticism, and I'll explain what this means. Consistency is a word here. Consistent criticism, consistent defensiveness, consistent contempt, and consistent stonewalling. Let's look at each of them very quickly. What is the first one? Come on, Jen, can you move to the next one? Okay. What criticism here Gottman talks about is all of us criticize each other. Of course, there's no problem with that. So the problem with this particular one is stating the problem as a deficit in the person's character, consistently complaining that the person is the problem. You are lazy, rather than saying you have some laziness. You are crazy, rather than saying you may be crazy sometimes. Again, this person, the criticism is always focusing on the personhood, not about the behavior. So identifying the behavior with the person. So there's a deficit in that sense, always. So person is the problem. They interact with each other in the same way. Again, communicating to each other that way. Next one, please. Defensiveness. Again, consistency. Consistently not taking personal responsibility for the problem. Taking always a victim approach or an innocent party approach, or counterattack. Again, I don't, like, from a systemic point of view, a problem is a result of multiple factors. People, all of them, us are contributing to the problem in some ways. But this person who's defensive, in this case, consistently taking no responsibility at all. That's another predictor of divorce. The third one, please. Contempt. This is a very powerful one. Actually, in that you will see that in the video clip that I'll show you again. Contempt is the consistent absence of respect for the partner. Consistent respect, absence of respect, and it is different from criticism, because in the contempt there is a talking down. You are stupid, and I am superior to you. And even when they fight, they correct the grammar of each other. Like, you don't even know how to speak. You're so stupid, so dumb. Again, that's the kind of language. So even correcting the grammar of the partner when fighting, and ridiculing the partner in mean-spirited way. Again, some of us do that in some way sometimes, but what Gottman is talking about is consistent contempt for the partner. And the last one, Jennifer, is stonewalling. Stonewalling, again, is consistent emotional withdrawal from couple interactions. Absolutely no engagement with the partner at all. And I think we see that in many couples. Usually they don't yell at each other, they don't talk to each other, they just don't engage at all in some ways. If at all they have a message to communicate, they communicate through their children or through some other means, maybe an email or something. But otherwise, they don't. There is a total disengagement. So when all these or one of these or all of these are present in the couple relationship, then you may want to be very, you may want to pay attention to that particular system before you do the clinical assessment and making, designing treatment plan. Dysfunctional relationships are characteristics are there is a negative sentiment override. They're always negative in that sense. There's a frequent physiological arousal, meaning to say, one of the things what Gottman, in a very powerful way, he does is that he says, when our body is, that's why he talks about soothing the person. When we are psychologically aroused, meaning to say, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm in a rage, my heart rate is about 100 plus beats per minute. If that is what your body is going through during that argument, then Gottman would say you cannot process information with your intelligence. It's all about, then the other is the enemy. Then you get into that tunnel vision, right? Then people are not reasoning out anymore. There is no logic there anymore. The destruction of the other party is the only it's again. So when you are psychologically aroused in that hostile or rage, Gottman would say, go to separate different rooms and then cool down, soothe yourself, and then you may come back and address it. Again, that's a powerful thing. I have seen it. I work with a lot of high conflict couples. Often violence happens at that time because he says, I'm so mad, I'm about to, kind of blow off. So, and then he says, let me take a break, and I'm just going. He just walks out. He goes to maybe the basement, or he goes out of the house. But she follows him. No, let's talk about it. You're silly. Let's finish it. Otherwise, you're such a coward, and all this kind of things that they talk. Again, follows that person who's already aroused. And then the person feels cornered and then attacks, and then violence happens often. There are different kinds of violence that we'll talk about in the next second. So again, often, when the couple members know that my partner is aroused, my partner is not logical now, my partner needs some break, when I know that, when I let him or her go into that place to cool down or calm down, or kind of kind of settle in some ways, then taking a break at that point will be very important. Otherwise, if they pursue each other in that kind of, no, let's talk about it right now, that may not give any logical, it won't have any, it won't lead to any productive conversations. So often couple members, again, all these things couple members learn in the course of their therapy. Okay, we can take the next one. I think I talked about some of them already. He talks about, yeah, this is an important, I'll end it here before we take the question. So Gottman provides a powerful roadmap for the couples. I use this in my clinical practice. Each of these: building love maps, sharing fondness and admiration, turning towards, having generally positive perspective in life in general, managing conflict and making life dreams come true, and creating shared meaning. These are, I take each of these themes as part of my session for each day, each week. And let's look at each of them very quickly again. Can you move to the next one, please? Okay, building love maps. The question again, do I know the roadmap, the inner roadmap of my wife, my partner, my husband? Again, during the romantic phase or courtship, people get to know each other a lot more. But again, in the course of their marriage relationship, they may have to continue to learn about what the other person is. What makes that person excited? What makes that person sad? Gary Chapman and all those people talk about knowing the 5 love languages. Some of you may be familiar with that. All those physical touch and gift giving and all those things. So it ties in well with those kind of things. Again, what really excites my partner? For my wife, again, receiving gifts. Gifts don't have to be expensive, simple, thoughtful gifts, small little things, or a physical touch, or serving her in some ways. Those are, or words of appreciation or affirmation. So again, 5 languages on a time. So knowing each other's love language is very important. Again, building love maps. How do I know my partner? That's the first thing. Having an authentic interest in knowing my partner. The next one, Jen. Sharing fondness and admiration, using words and gestures to admire and express my appreciation for the person. In most of the couple relationships, what happens is that fondness and admiration die down in the course of time. It is transferred to the children more than to each other. Expressing affection and respect in small everyday moments. Like my wife writes little small notes for me, or leave some little candies. I love candies also. So those kind of things. Chocolate. Again, small little things. It doesn't have to go a long way, or go, just small little sharing my fondness for the person. This is the most important person in my life. That kind of thing. And admiration. Third one, please. The next one, please. Turning towards. Again, I cannot speak enough about it. When your partner come to you, rather than paying attention to the phone, can we turn to the partner and listen to the partner? Again, you don't have to say so much. Those physical gestures, we talk about meta messages, right? How we communicate our messages, how our body language contributes to that message. Those are the turning towards also goes a long way. Noticing and positively responding to partner's bits. So for example, when I'm reading and studying, I go into my zone and I don't become, I'm not aware of what goes on. So my wife knows that if she comes around, I may not be able to pay attention. So again, I have certain time to read and study, but at the time we don't bother each other. In the same way for her too, she studies and reads and she teaches all. So again, we kind of give space to each other. So when we are taking a break from there, those kind of things, we practice usually. Again, most of the couples can be taught these things. Next one, Jen. Positive perspective. Again, having a positive perspective in general, giving the person the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, she was mad at me, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't love me anymore. Giving the person the benefit of the doubt, right? That's often, we talk about in psychology, cognitive distortions. Remember that, those kind of things again. So again, giving the person the benefit of the doubt, that person's kind of certain gestures. If you look at the whole life, the person has been extremely caring, but that moment, 5 minutes, that particular day and time, she was mad at me. But I cannot just focus on that 5 minutes and think that she is that. But she's much more than that. So again, giving the person the benefit of the doubt. Next one, please, Jen. Managing conflict. Again, this is 31% of conflicts are solvable through the following. What about the rest? There's another 69%. Those are not solvable. So Gottman would say, actually, it comes from Wiley's research. I don't know whether you're familiar with that. So again, I think most of our conflicts are perpetual. In other words, he says you can change only about 31%, and the rest we have to live with this. Again, managing conflict, knowing that, oh, she gets upset when I do certain things, she gets upset, my wife gets upset, and I have to accept that reality. I cannot change her in that, or she cannot change me. When I'm studying, I don't think about anything else. That's who I am. So again, when people come to talk to me when I'm saying, I get upset about things because I don't want anybody to. So again, no, these are the realities. Couple members get to know each other's challenges, and then they respect those, and that can prevent a lot of conflicts, a lot of arguments, in other words. Next one, Jen, please. Making life dreams come true, honoring one another's life dreams. Those dreams get lost over time, because in the courtship time, romantic phase, or honeymoon time, people talk about what they would do in their lives and all. But in the course of time, those get lost. So again, Gottman would say, no, don't let it get lost. Come back and revisit them every once in a while, at least, and helping the partners. And because, for example, when my wife and we got married, at that time, one of the things that she wanted to travel. She never traveled. I mean, she did travel with her sister and other friends and all, but she wanted to travel through Spain and Germany and all. And again, so I'm a fiscal conservative personally, and I said, oh no, we should save money first, because we had to buy a home first. So again, she had the travel plan, I had the buying the whole house. Of course, we did both anyway. So honoring those kind of plans and dreams are in small ways, not travel. In small ways, whatever the partner wants, again, get it, realizing it, or make it come true. And so that really enhances the relationship in big ways. And the last one is, Jen, creating shared meaning, establishing formal and informal rituals of connection. Again, we have certain rituals of connection at home, how we end the evening, how we wake up in the morning, when each one is leaving the home. Again, so couple members, ask the couple members, what kind of rituals have they instituted in their personal life, and keep them alive in some ways. Every couple member may have some kind of ritual that they have brought from their family of origin that worked for them. And again, those kind of things. So when two people come from two different backgrounds, those rituals can be part of the everyday reality. Again, we have created we have Thanksgiving here, Thanksgiving is a special time. We invite people over, our close ones, and then we have certain rituals at home. It's kind of very big celebratory. Kids always look forward to Thanksgiving and Christmas and those kind of things. So creating shared meaning between the couple, those are some of the. And I'll take one or two. Jen, can you move to the next one before we end it? Okay. Please move to the next one, please. And the next one, please. Yes, I think this is the last one I would take in this one. Oh, sorry. The previous, I'm so sorry about this. So, sorry, Jen, the previous one. Okay. Yeah, yeah, this one. No, there is something about, can you go back again? Just maybe I rushed you through something. Yeah, well, that's okay. This is good. Yeah, maybe this is the, can you take one more before? Yes.
Stop here, and then challenges in therapy.
Yeah, no, you can move forward.
Long-term relationship.
Yeah, take one more, I think.
Fundamental.
Yes, this is the one. This is the one. Long-term relationship. I want to just say quickly about this. I've been saying this to you. The reality sometimes is marriage is not for all, right? This is not although our society and culture paints a wonderful picture about what marriage is all about and all, it's not for all. And in order to be in long-term relationship, Gottman would say, one has to have at least these 5 principles. Again, 5 fundamental conditions are: belief that trust, loyalty, and commitment are necessary ingredients of part of my life. Can I trust my partner? Can we have loyalty to each other? Can we have a commitment, no matter how upset we are to each other? Commitment to continue to care. It's kind of, we call it disciplined care. That's how I would say it. disciplined care. Again, whether I'm upset with my partner or not. So ask the couple members what sort of what sort of disciplined care they have. The second one is agreement of some form of sexual or romantic exclusivity. Gottman is, it's a kind of traditional in that sense. Now we live in a swinging culture or a polyamorous culture, or like one night. Those are some of the forms there people get into. But again, Gottman say if you want to be in a serious long-term relationship in which you can thrive and flourish, then it needs to have some sort of exclusivity, sexual and romantic exclusivity. I may be attracted to my coworker in the place. I may be attracted to my friend or out there, because that we get infatuated, we get excited as we go along when we see a lot of people. For example, I work in a university, some beautiful, great people, amazingly, smart and good. Again, those are attractions always in some ways, but again, we have to live with those realities. At the same time, there's a commitment that we have taken. So everybody cannot do that, and some couple members cannot do that. So sexual and romantic exclusivity is an important part of that particular arrangement. And agreement of fairness and care until the end. Fairness, how I can be fair to that person, how I can care for that person, the other person, when he or she gets older and stuff like that. And respect and affection until the end. These are some of the old traditional values. But again, they are powerful. Clinically, they make a lot of relevance for us. And finally, meeting each other's wants and need. Again, people have wants. The ultimate commitment is to each other. Like how do I fulfill her dreams in the best way I can within the physical limitations or all those kind of limitations that I have. So at least having that sense. So Gottman would say, if people are not serious about these 5 things, don't even think of getting married. That's why it's for the brave heart, I would say. And he would say in the US, and we have, in India it's happening as well. Again, people get into those marriages hoping to fall in love within after that. It's a reality. At the same time, people need to know who they are. At least they need to have a notion, even though before they live together. We are not saying that they should live together first. At least get a sense of who they are, and then developing all these things and getting into the relationship with the notion that all these things have to be in place. Otherwise, they will struggle in their relationship. And then, so again, it's part of my couple therapy. I use some of these models to, this particular model especially, to work with couples who are working on relationship enhancement. If the couple come to us for many reasons. Some couples are distressed. Some couples they're happy with their lives, but again, they want to improve the relationship. Again, I use some of these kind of concepts from Gottman when I create a treatment plan within the system. I'm going to stop it for a few seconds for any. I'll take two questions or something. Thank you, Jen, on that one. Can you set me up for the next one? Yes. Oh, sorry. This is good. We'll take a couple of questions. Or is there any question from the chat?
Sir?
Sure. Yeah. Aisha, yeah.
I had a question. I don't know how relevant it is, but I was looking through the divorce statistics in the West, and since we're talking about assumptions and rather than assuming things, you should have communication, conversation. Yeah. And when you see the divorce statistics among those couples who have lived in before marriage, it seems to be on the higher side. So I was just wondering, how does that happen? Because one of the main reasons they'll tell you they want to live in is because they want to know everything about each other.
Right. Actually, yeah. Aisha, that's a great question. Cohabitation, right? You're talking about cohabitation before. So people want to try out whether it's a good relationship or not.
Exactly.
And people who get into that kind of cohabitation, often, they, depending on who that person is. I have seen some of my friends who cohabited before, and then they tried it out and they said, okay, now it's time to tie them knot, that they move on. Some people don't, but those who move on have already done their work in terms of more than sexual intimacy, more than fulfilling those kind of things. They have worked on their, different dimensions of their lives. They went for, therapy before they got married, and they knew what they were getting into. Some people, although they cohabit, they live together, they don't look into those deeper dimensions. What happens to them is kind of when they get upset about certain things and they leave the relationship and move on. Basically, the point is cohabitation is useful. I find it clinically, as long as they work on those issues. And if they realize that it's not for me, then they make the decision to leave, exit, and get into the new one. But some people cohabit for a while, and then families pressurize them. They're like, you've been living together 3 years. When I go, oh, they just had a baby, all those kind of things again. Then those becomes factors which force them or kind of coerce them into this marriage. But the point is, they have not really worked on the real issues they were supposed to. The original intent was to know the issue, get to know it, but they don't resolve it. That's one of the factors. It's a great question, actually. So it's not the cohabitation per se leads to divorce, but rather cohabitation without really getting into the dimensions and working out, leading to divorce later on. The marriage then leading to divorce. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'll take one more. We can take it at the end also. Okay, so it looks like no questions so far. That's good. Jen, can you set me up for the emotionally focused, please? Okay, great. Emotionally focused couple. This is one of the coolest again. Susan Johnson, of course, she comes to teach in our program often, not off late. Again, she's kind of almost retiring in a way. So emotionally focused, another powerful model. This is a powerful model in the sense that if you look into the history of couple therapy, most of the interventions primarily focused on early on cognition and behavioral changes and cognitive CVTs and all. The contribution of Susan Johnson and team, especially EFCT, emotionally focused couple therapy, or ECT, is kind of, she began to pay attention to the emotions, the importance of emotions, the universality of emotions. She would say, the way to change is primarily through experience, emotions, how they emote, how they experience and express emotions in their relationship. She would also go so far to say that, if a couple members are not open to all wide range of emotions, but they only restrict themselves. Like, for example, you cannot be angry in this relationship. You cannot be sad in this relationship. Sometimes couple members set themselves up for that kind of failure. They're afraid to express their anger. They're afraid to express their sadness, but they only allow certain emotions, happiness, joy, those kind of restricted emotions. She would say those are beginning to, those will get you into all kinds of trouble later on. Because as a human, in order to grow and flourish, you need to express and experience all sorts of emotions in a controlled way, of course. So the more the couple members have the freedom to, so say for example, my wife is upset and angry with me, she can come and yell at me because we can tolerate that. She can, if she's feeling sad, she should be able to come in. Again, the same way. So the couple members should allow those kind of emotions, not beating up each other and all. The emotions should be there. So that's what emotion. So emotionally focused therapy. This particular model focuses a lot on the importance of emotions, and she talks primarily about primary emotions and secondary emotions. Some of you are familiar with that. Either most of you are familiar with that. Say, for example, she would say anger is a secondary emotion. What is behind the anger? Underneath the anger, maybe fear often. She gives the examples of bullies out there beat you out, they're angry, and then I'm going to kill you and kick you out and those kind of things. Most often those people are afraid, but being afraid is not acceptable in the community. They go to the other one, which is kind of anger. Anger is more acceptable, not acceptable in that sense. The more, it is, people perceive them as strong, not as weak. But when people are, kind of expressing their fears and all, again, pay attention to the underlying or primary emotions. When the couple members can explore and experience and share those fundamental emotions, then they will grow a lot. Again, let's look at this. Deeply influenced by Rogers and team. It departs from behaviorism, as I said, or cognitive approaches. Deeply rooted in attachment theory, as we talked about, and experientialism and systemic theories. She focuses on human emotions and the formation of secure attachments. Basically, kind of my partner and I must have confidence to go to each other in an ideal relationship, go to each other and be vulnerable in that relationship. and my partner, the trust that my partner will not use my vulnerability against me when we have an argument later on. Those kind of things. Next one, please. Human beings make creative and healthy choices. Again, this is an assumption of, fundamental assumption of EFCT. What it says is, when people are healthy, emotionally healthy, they are in a secure relationships, then by nature, they will know what to do. They will make healthy choices. When people are afraid, when people are insecure in their relationship, then they jump into quicker decisions and to get into a relationship. Again, my job as a parent is basically to help my kids grow in a healthy and emotionally secure way. Once they grow in that kind of patterns, then they will make good decisions. So basically, what Susan Johnson says, kind of, can the couple members create that kind of healthy and emotionally secure attachment settings? Change and transformation can happen only through secure relationships, she would say. Again, I'll take the next one. I think this is all I would do for now, for this particular one. There are many slides on this one, but I'm going to focus on this one and go slowly on this one. And we can end it. Pay attention to this. This is Susan Johnson's foundational principle. It comes from Bowlby and Ainsworth and all those people that those who are in psychology field know that already. We all need to have a predictable and secure connection. Let's go slowly on this one. We all need to have a predictable in what sense? When I'm in trouble, I can go back and get the support from that person. I talked about it in the attachment time. And we all need to have that secure emotional connection. And that is an innate and fundamental principle for human beings to survive. Without those, in our families, often, ideally speaking, we have those. When we are in distress, our parents can comfort us or soothe us. Or ideally speaking, at least, it doesn't happen in all cases. Or in that my secure relationship with my mother early on, and then with my wife now, I'm secure with her in that sense. Again, when I have trouble, I can go to her. For example, when I'm at the university, when we have different things and all, she's the first person that I call often, because we have developed that kind of relationship. She also does the same thing. She's kind of, worried about things or confused about certain things or kind of concerned about certain things. In order to calm herself, I'm not giving her any answer to the problem, but I can hold her. I can ground her. Again, she can call. The point is, once the person is calmed down or grounded or secure, then she or he would have access to all those wisdom that person has. So again, the purpose of this relationship is to provide that predictable and secure connection. A sense of felt security fosters autonomy and self-confidence. The second part of Bowlby. But again, Susan Johnson uses it exactly that same way. Creating a felt security. Can I be secure with my partner? Within that security, I develop my autonomy and I develop my self-confidence. Just like a child, before a child does anything, explores the world, she makes sure that mom or dad is around. And if they are there, she would explore. And when she's distressed, she would run back to the mother or father. And that's the same way with the partners too. Again, it's a kind of application. So felt security. So again, I know that I can count on my wife. I can call her, and no matter how busy she is, she will take my call. At least she would tell me, I'll call you back in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever the time it is. So I have that kind of connection. Always somebody to run things with. That's the kind of relationship that we are developing and we're continuing to develop. Third one is essential elements in a secure relationship is emotional accessibility and responsiveness, and caregiving, and those we talked about. Again, what does emotional accessibility means? It means when I am distressing, when I call on that person, my partner, she will be accessible to me. She would not turn her phone off, or she would not tell me. Again, she may take a break, or she may tell me, okay, I'll call you back in 3 hours, but just hang on there. That's kind of things that we do there. So she's accessible to me. I'm not alone. I can calm myself down. And she's responsive to my request. In the same way, that's what happens in couple relationships. They form that kind of accessibility and responsiveness in the relationship. And the third, so when you work with couples, you may want to check into all these things: how accessible they are, how responsive they are, or do they turn the phone off when the partner calls, or they are not. Those kind of things. Again, the fourth one is adult couple partner attachment integrates caregiving. They care for each other, and also attempts to meet attachment needs and sexual needs of the person. Again, that's an exclusive. This is different from children, because parents and children don't do that. There is no there is no sexuality there. They give response in a caring way. But again, with the couple partners, it's a different one. Again, there's a sexual intimacy, and that's part of that caregiving piece. Fifth one is adult attachment is mutual and reciprocal. It goes back and forth both ways. In some of the couple relationships that I have seen, it is not both ways. It's only one way. It's done and dead. The attachment is, and often we say that attachment is representation. If I am secure with at least one person in my life, with my partner, with my parents, with my whatever therapist, if I'm secure in that, then that gives me confidence to get into our world. So they become representational. Everybody doesn't have to be supportive to me. Say, for example, within the comfort of my relationship with my partner, that security I have, that will give me confidence to explore the world outside, no matter how challenging it is. So it's a representational in that sense. The sixth one is, if the attachment figure is not perceived as accessible and responsive, as we see in many couple relationships, then separation distress ensues. It begins. Then they begin to, disengage. That's what happens in many relationships, right? This involves angry protest in some cases. They're mad at each other, or they cling on to each other, kind of insecure attachment, they anxiety-driven attachments, or they seek, or they get depressed, or they become desperate, and finally it leads to detachment. So again, those are interesting patterns. And the last one is attachment bond involves a set of behaviors that elicits contact with the beloved. Again, the rituals I talked about earlier. In what way do these couple systems have rituals of connection that enhances or deepens their attachment, their connection with each other? There are, all these things are definitely, possible. I think there's more, but again, I'm going to end it here. Oh yeah, can you just run through quickly one more, just kind of forward, so that I think it's all I wanted to say. Yeah, I think so. Again, we talked about emotions. The only way to bring about change is how I feel secure in my relationship with my partner. Only emotions can be transformative. Only emotions can change. We talked about in other things like that. I will end it here. Thank you. There's so much to learn about this particular model. Again, I can teach the whole thing. Okay. So what are you thinking about? We talked about two so far. Gottman, and then EFCT, the power of emotions, the power of relationships. Secure. One of the things Susan Johnson would say is, no matter how bad your relationships were with your family of origin, you had a bad deal with the family. If your family didn't care for you, or all those things, it doesn't matter. When you are in an adult relationship, those attachment injuries can be healed if you're lucky enough to find a partner. And often, but again, so the healing is definitely possible. And I think I talked about it in the beginning itself, on the first day itself. We are not screwed for the rest of our lives. We are redeemed. There is a redemption possible. There is healing possible. And in order to have that healing possibility, one needs to choose the partner wisely and carefully and thoughtfully. So again, emotional connection is an extremely important part of people's growth and development. If you have one person in your life who you can be vulnerable with, that you're very fortunate. That will really help you flourish a lot. Okay, questions. We have about 5 minutes for questions before I jump into the next one.
Sir, this is Deepa here.
Hi, Deepa.
Sir, in EFT model, actually, we see about like how the inner emotions. We try to go deeper into it and check the hidden emotions. Could you just explain based on any one of the cases that you tackled using this, sir? Very briefly, if you could. Is it possible for you to just share your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, definitely. So there are hidden emotions. Like, for example, a partner, I'm just thinking about one particular case. They were going well, but somehow this particular partner, female partner in this particular case, she was really afraid of presenting some of her concerns about the relationship. Everything was going on. Both of them had great jobs. They had great kids. There many things were going on. But at the same time, often she was reluctant. She was afraid to really tell him, Tom. Let's call him Tom, about what is really bothering her in her relationship, about one particular dimension. And there were kind of, so she would kind of not talk about those experiences because she was afraid. She was constantly reading um, um, his responses to those, because he was very sensitive about somebody comes to him with any sort of criticism, any sort of you know kind of improvement in his personal life, including his wife. He would be very there were anger outbursts and all those things happen. So she was very reluctant, and not reluctant so much, scared to bring any correction to him, any ways to kind of help him improve in that area. So I think so she lived like that for a long time. And when she was in therapy with us, she talked about that in the individual session with the therapist. And the individual therapist, I mean, we kind of connect with the individual therapist and a couple therapists in our clinic, because we have the informed consent for that. So we came to know about that, and so I had to bring it to the couple relationship in that sense. I asked it as a curious question, but Tom had no clue at all. Tom thought that everything was going well. There was no reason for her to be afraid, but somehow that fear for her came from her own reading of the cues that she read in Tom, and also her own family of origin experiences. So she lived with that fear for a long time, and until it was brought to the therapy, and Tom was very open to those. Tom was upset with other people when they brought him, when they corrected him and all those things, but Tom was open to her in that. So it was a hidden fear in her. She never had the courage, so they never talked about it in the past. So that is one of the things that I can remember. So basically, I think it's important during that individual screening time, you may want to pay attention to some of these. Are there any hidden stuff they are worried about? Their partners may be sensitive about it, or their partners they go berserk about that. Those could be, there's some sort of reality check needed. And she gave me many examples. I try to approach him at such and such time and such day, but he was kind of, I read that he was not ready for that stuff, so I backed off and went on. But Tom doesn't remember those moments at all. So again, some of the partners can misread each other or kind of misinterpret, not even knowing. I know many things. I don't know many things about my wife even. Every now and then, it kind of comes to light. Oh yeah, she said, oh yeah. I mean, those kind of conversations happen usually during our good times. I was like, I wanted to tell you, can I bring this up to you? And this is what I thought. Like, she said, yeah, really? Why didn't you tell me about that? Again, a surprise about 3 years later into the relationship we found. So hidden things are often because of their own fears. It may be coming from family of origin, or it may be coming from the same relationship. Who knows? But again, it has to be brought in couple therapy in some ways. People should not be living in fear, in other words. I don't know whether I answered your question. That's the one thing about hidden thing that I remembered.
Yes, sir. Got an idea.
Okay, thank you. So I think sometimes, yeah. Oh, yeah, please, yes. Go ahead, Madhura. Madhura, yeah.
Yeah, this is Madhura.
Yeah.
I just want to, ask you to maybe throw more light on when we talk about emotional attachment injuries. They can be healed. Yes, certainly they can be healed, and for that you really need someone who would help you heal those areas. So in your attachment figure, when you form an attachment, and that itself is a healing process. But many a times it is observed or it is understood that we kind of repeat the patterns of those injurious contacts which we had. So if I had emotional injury or traumatic experience in childhood from a caregiver, attachment figure, I tend to repeat that pattern and choose someone who is going to do the similar thing to me.
Yes.
So can you throw light on?
Yeah. So there's a very powerful model called object relations couple therapy. I didn't talk about that. Some of you are familiar with object relations. Again, object relations couple therapy. They according to that particular model. Again, Susan Johnson can subscribe to that in some way also. It says we have formed a kind of blueprint of operation in some ways, how we relate to people. So if my during my early life experience, I had an attachment figure, and then I had an attachment figure with that attachment injury with that attachment figure. I think in somehow the kid kind of believes that that's a pattern. That's what it is. So wherever the kid goes, that kid operates under those assumptions. That so those are getting kind of repeated in some ways. For example, I don't know whether you have seen this before, is that you meet somebody for the first time in your life, and you don't know much about him. You don't even know the name of that person. You don't even know, but somehow you like that person in some ways, an instantaneous connection to that person. You don't know the temperament, you don't know the history of that person. Those are the replications of those. So those, because what happens from the object relations couple therapy model is that that blueprint, that paradigm has activated already. So you're thinking that you're putting that person in the same category, you connect with that person. That's one. In the other way, the other side of the coin is that you meet somebody for the first time. There's a repulsion within you. You hate that person. You don't know the name of the person. You never talked to that person. You saw some mannerisms in that person, and that mannerisms, you take it to that deeper place. It's an unconscious process, right? And that the blueprint that you have, that it gets activated. You said, oh yeah, I know he's a jerk already. He's an asshole. Sorry for saying that. He's a jerk. He's this and that, those kind of things. So those are, again, the repetition that we're talking about, right? So there are stored memory files deep within us. And often when we relate to people in the present, we are not relating to the people in the present in real sense. We are relating to the people from the past through this new person. Does it make any sense to you? This is an unconscious process. So in the therapeutic processes, we have to really catch it. And actually, I rely on object relations a lot on those kind of, so role counter, the role counter roles, or transference counter transference, those kind of things are part of the processes, because sometimes you can tune into these kind of this kind of dynamics and pick it up and then bring it to the attention. So I saw you, Tom. You were, Barbara was talking about this, but all of a sudden you went to a tangential dimension. I'm curious about what happened. He says, oh, really? It happened? Then I would ask him, is there anyone, when was the last time that you had that experience? Or anyone in your family of origin? Did you have this kind of response with anyone in your family of origin? So those kind of connecting to the old. So those, coming back to you, Madhura, those happens in couple relationships also, especially with the couples who are divorced and married, remarried and all. The old partners, they have not done with the old partner. They moved on, but again, the new partner's mannerism, or maybe it's tone or something, a word he or she used, all those things would take you back to that. And then you relate to the current person as if we are relating to the old person, and the person is not even aware of those kind of things. So again, those are realities. You're right. I mean, that's why it's a very fascinating thing.
Because object relation is something which I also constantly touch upon when I'm
Yes.
even in the individual sessions.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of splitting happening, because
Yes,
integration
splitting, exactly, right. Projective identification and all those things. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is a kind of, because sometimes, I think it's a funny thing. Even my wife and I have been married for a while now, and sometimes the way she talks to me, certain mannerisms, certain words she uses, takes me immediately to my childhood. I begin to react to that vociferously. I go mad at it, and she has to catch me. Hey, Seb, what happened? What did I do? What did I say? Then I had to catch myself. Oh, that's what happened now. I'm talking to my mother, not to my wife. My mother is dead and gone. 20 years ago, she died, but I still, again, this kind of crazy stuff, it happens to all of us.
Yeah, Seb?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
I just wanted you to explain a little more about this negative sentiment override or negative affect override.
Yeah. So again, these are part of the gridlock in a way. Like, I know sometimes we read each other, right? Not sometimes, often we read each other. So my wife begins to talk about certain topics, her mannerisms comes in certain ways. And I have some memories associated with that with her, because she and I had some conflicts. So for example, she's here, otherwise I would have given a great example. She may hear me say, she's like she always negotiates, right? That's our relationship. So I remember, we were moving from one house to the other, talking about negative override. We were moving from one house to the other, and then she called this moving company, and the moving company gave X number of dollars. She said, we have to get about $100, not 100, more than that. Let's say, for example, $100 to move. She says, call somebody else, and then she goes around. In the meantime, I'm a kind of person that I always look for local people because it's a kind of job for them. So a German immigrant who just moved in here, he had a little family. So I went to him, and he said, oh, this is what I need. So he said, I would do it for you for $50, he said. And I came to, but when he says 50, I want to give him 100 because, I have this crazy part, a part of me. And again, I told my wife about 50. She says, oh, that's great. And then she wants to negotiate with for $30. But she was okay with $100 with the moving company, but not with this guy. So it drives me crazy, and I get mad. This is kind of negative. Like, so I always associate, again, like she always negotiates with this, even the littlest of people who really poor people. We cannot take advantage of. That's kind of the way I think about it. So I have this negative over. So anytime she talks about this negotiation, we have a we have a nanny, full-time nanny here for us. She works with us. So we have been talking about increasing her pay. And my wife has been saying, no, unless she asks for it. She always, anytime that negotiation, the term negotiation comes with people, little people, I go nuts about that. This again, so there are sometimes people may be locked up with this kind of negative override. And anytime she thinks about it, talks about it, even says something about it, I get mad at the whole thing. I'm without even knowing exactly, because I know those patterns. I know that where she's going to go with that. So the negative. So a partner says something, partner does something, there's a negative. Oh, you meant that. I'm automatically escalated to assume that she's taking advantage of it. So this kind of negative cycle happen in couple relationships, negative override. So you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the person. All those things are part of that processes. Couple members can go crazy and nutty about those negative or pervasive negative override about certain things, certain topics. I hope it makes sense.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, Jen, can you take me to IPV, intimate partner violence?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think we are doing okay with time. I'm in a rush to get things done. Hopefully we'll have time to think about it. Yeah, we are on a roll. Okay. Yeah. This is a very touchy and really I worked with a lot of high conflict couple systems. I think I mentioned to you during my doctoral internship at the university. We had a clinic, and it was fascinating for me again. So I'm going to share with you some observations from those, and also maybe some research as well. Intimate partner violence. Let's try to understand what this phenomenon is all about. I have seen a lot of this in Indian context, in the US context in some cases. And I want to give you, hopefully this will make some sense to you. And I want to pick your brain on this topic yourself. Again, please, next one, please. Okay. Intimate partner violence, also known as intimate partner aggression. So you see domestic violence, all those, in some cases, the children are involved. So again, these are kind of, synonymously used. There are 3 types of intimate partner violence, IPV, from our clinical observations and research. Psychological IPV, physical violence, and also sexual violence. Psychological, physical, and sexual. In couple relationship, all of them may be present, or one of them or 2 of them may be present. We have to be mindful of what it is. Let's talk about each of them. What is it? Please, next one, Jen. Let's talk about physical violence. We are all familiar with that. From many movies talk about it, mainstream community talk about it, newspapers talk about it, physical violence. Women, most of the cases, I said women, even in some cases men too. Women are more likely to experience severe acts of violence. We had a case a couple of weeks ago. I think I mentioned somebody went and stabbed his wife 16 times. I don't know whether I told you that. And about a couple of months ago, somebody ran over his wife, Indian couple, ran over. He went and kind of beat her up so badly. She's on the road. It's all happening in front of the hospital in Florida. He gets into the car. She was coming out of a night shift, 7 o'clock in the morning, and he hid somewhere behind. And then he went and hit her many times. And then she was down on the floor. She's she's not almost, she's 6 months pregnant herself. And then beat her arm, she's down. And then while everybody's watching in shock, and he gets into his car, runs her over with the car, reverses, comes back again, runs her over second time, and third time, and he drove away. Physical violence. Murders. Again, women are more likely to, this happens, these are stories. In the newspapers, we find this kind of news shocking for Indian community in the US. All the media, Asian, other kind of talking about those kind of things. So physical violence is a common thing for part of the intimate partner violence. Women are more likely to experience severe acts of violence. Women also kind of initiate it, but again, often they get hurt more than others. Murders of women by their intimate partners occur at least 3 times more than the other way around. I have dealt with several of them in our, because I was part of the research project at the university where we were before, University of Connecticut. Okay, so I don't have to say much about intimate partner violence and physical violence. What about the next one? Jen, please. Psychological violence. This is dangerous one. Often these they don't leave any physical mark on the body of the person, right? So it's hard to report often. It involves name calling, usually damaging their self-esteem. Like the 4 horsemen of apocalypse talks about that. It comes in the form of insulting, shaming the partner in front of others, criticism regarding appearance and behavior in front of family members, especially by the children. You are such XYZ. And this happens not once in a great while, happens consistently. Even refusing to talk about an issue of importance in public, in couples' lives. Sometimes, I think a couple of you mentioned yesterday or day before, I think, and not necessarily this one, but I'm saying, I was thinking about that case at that time. Like they'll say, my partner wants to take me to therapy so we can talk about the psychological violence, we can deal with that. But partner is refusing to go for therapy. That itself is a form of psychological violence. That's how we kind of, because the other partner wants it or looking for it or getting destroyed in this relationship, but the other partner is not refusing to get into the help or even the conversation about that. They can have the power. So psychological violence is much more dangerous and much more lethal because it doesn't leave any. Court of law cannot do much about it because psychological violence, there are, and I'm sure Indian context has been very, unfortunately, there are more cases I have seen there more than here. The next one, please, Jen. Sexual violence. I'm talking about in couples, sexual violence in the forms of sexual aggression, marital rape. She's tired, she's exhausted, she came back from work, but I want it so badly. And raping her against her wish. And sexual coercion, arguing or insisting on sex. As couple therapists, we know this happens. Sometimes these don't get reported. They just give in, they just lie down and they just take it. And the sexual violence in couples, again, very rampant. And I've seen it in many immigrant communities, especially again, I don't want to name any particular group and all, especially from certain, I don't even want to say it because it's kind of, certain groups are very, a lot of those can happen. Again, it is coming from the patriarchy and all those kind of things. We'll talk about it in a few seconds. Next one, please. And there is an overlap. So I talked about 3 kinds, right? Physical, psychological, and sexual. And there is an overlap of the forms of IPV. Again, pay attention to what are existing in the couples that we are seeing. More frequent overlap I see between psychological and physical aggression. Psychologically insulting my partner, insulting this and all. And it may also go into the physical aggression in some ways. I have also seen newly married individuals experience psychological aggression. 1 year into marriage, 2 years into marriage, and those kind of things. And high rates of psychological aggression are predictive of later physical aggression. So it kind of one leads to the other in some ways. If there's a presence of psychological aggression, insulting, humiliating, calling names, shaming, and all those things psychologically, it may lead to physical aggression, and then also other forms. Kind of, I can talk so much more about that again, but let's move on because there may be some questions. Next one, Steve. No, I'm sorry. Did I? Okay. Yes. I want to make some points about this. Can you move the? Can you go back just one time? Sorry, sorry, Jen. I'm sorry about that. Troubling you. I want to look into something just quickly. Okay. Yes. Patriarchy again. Yes, predictive. And the next one, move forward, please. Next, just one. Yes. No. Yes, this one, right. Okay.
Is it
There are
marriages or role of patriarchy, sir?
Yeah, role of patriarchy. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for confusing you. So I just wanted to discuss this quickly about, again, role of patriarchy. I find a lot of patriarchal elements. I was looking at some of the literature from the 1980s on, 80s and 90s and 2000s, and now we are doing a project on this one, violence. Interesting research. Patriarchy is often in the old literature, talks about patriarchy's contribution, and I thought it is still relevant. I just wanted to share it with you so that you may also tell me during the question answer. Patriarchy may have a role in perpetuating intimate partner violence. What is patriarchy? It's kind of male entitlement derived from patriarchal society. I am a male and I demand, I own you. Those kind of patriarchy. Perpetrators of violence from that kind of patriarchal tradition. I talked about certain immigrant groups, especially from African context and in the Middle Eastern context that we see here. There's a lot of people coming here to the United States. Perpetrators of violence believe in a greater sense of entitlement rather than their responsibility. They said that I own her. Again, they don't admit it in word, but again, in behaviorally, that's what they communicate to us. Greater sense of entitlement. This is my wife. I can beat her up. Who are you to ask me that question? How dare you calling the police on me? Because this is our internal matter, a family affair, and I'm in charge of this household. The sense of entitlement. And often victims are frequently invited by perpetrators to take responsibility for the abusive behavior. You made me mad, right? The way you talk to me, I just came back from work, I'm tired, and you're coming and asking me, complaining about it? Give me a break, I'll beat the crap out of you. Those kind of things. Again, this kind of beliefs, this comes from the place of patriarchy. Sometimes these are unexamined in some cultures, right? Don't you think so? These are real issues. So my question is, what is the role of patriarchy in perpetuating intimate partner violence? This is a larger conversation, not in the therapy room itself, but again, we need to have this kind of conversations at the societal level, at a community level. Next one, please, Jen. Yeah, there are risk factors associated with, again, patriarchy is one. And then there are intimate partner violence and risk factors. We need to be aware of the risk factors. What we have found is, again, in my own clinical practice, I found it, younger the couple members are, they go berserk quickly. They don't have that kind of maturity yet. They don't have the tolerance to take a criticism from the partner. They don't have the, substance use disorders, addiction and all those things really complicate this or exacerbates, I would say, intimate partner violence. Impulsivity. There's no way to control depression, unemployment. We see that, especially the rate of intimate partner violence has gone up, skyrocketed here in our community, in the US, in spite of the law and all those things. I'm pretty sure in Indian context, it's not very different at all. Unemployment, lack of resources coming into the home makes people flip quickly. Family history of violence, family of origin experience. Again, research is filled with that. You know this already. If I have seen my father beating my wife up, if I have seen that kind of history in my family, that's how they resolve the conflicts within the family, then most likely I will use it when I am in those kind of moments. Problems with emotional regulation. I cannot control myself. When I'm heated, I'm going into that place, then there is no change possible for me. I just go all the way into not having secure attachments. not having strong attachment figures in life, especially people with insecure attachments. That guy that I talked about in Florida, the one who ran over his wife 3 times and killed her while on the road while she was pregnant, those are the, he never had any attachment figures in his life. We are learning about him more. Victim of child abuse. They themselves were abused as children, physically abused. I think this is a very important lesson for us. They were the targets of parents' aggression when they were growing up. So they took a lot of things, beatings, and then now they are in a powerful positions as couple members of the husbands and in some cases wives. Again, those things, again, all these are risk factors. So when we work with couples with high conflict, we have to look into all these factors. The risk factors are important for us to pay attention to. I'm talking about things that you already know anyway, but I just wanted to remind you of the importance of this. The next one, please. What forms, one of the things that I do, and I recommend you to do this, when you do the clinical assessment, look at what forms of IPV are present in this particular system. Is it a psychological violence that they're talking about, or a physical violence, or sexual violence, or all of them, or 2 of them? Pay attention to that. Also pay attention to how frequently does it happen in this relationship. She would talk about, he insults me pretty much every day in front of the children. Or she nags me, she humiliates me. That's the second clip I wanted to show you. She humiliates me pretty much every day. So how frequently does it happen? That's a question. What is the context in which it happens? What are the preceding factors, antecedent factors, and consequent factors? Again, a functional analysis, all of us are familiar with that stuff. I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Again, functional analysis. When does it happen? What are the preceding factors? What happens during? What happens after? How does it end? Presence, and also look for presence of risk factors. We talked about a list of them, just a slide before: depression, impulsivity, all those bunch of things. So again, when you do clinical assessment with these kind of high conflict couple systems, pay attention to what form, how frequent, what is the context, and also the presence of risk factors in each member's life. Next one, please. Interventions. There are many. I don't know about Indian context. We have several. I can talk about that. I'm part of a couple of them, at least in our clinic. We have an anger management protocol here. At the clinic, we have at the university we have a clinic. So interventions and treatments must focus on engaging perpetrators to take responsibility for their own behavior, and also teach them not to use power and control tactics to control partner. Power and control tactics. Again, that's why I talked about the patriarchy, because people believe somehow that's an they believe part of the worldview is that they own it, they have this power, they have this right. When I run this group at the university, we have a clinic, I said, anger management groups and all, we hear it from them all the time. They don't take responsibility for that kind of, oh, she made me mad, she made me angry, those kind of things. So anyway, in the US, we have a couple of BATFR intervention programs, basically our anger management programs. The court, mandates these people to go through that kind of programs. I don't know. I was asking, are there any programs in your cities, in Mangalore or Bangalore, wherever in India, these kind of programs for the aggressors or the people who are going through or they just go to the jail? I'm not sure about what the state of affairs in your localities. Next one, please. The last one, I think. Reflection. I think I want to say, just as a part of my, when you talk about intimate partner violence in any community, any society, there's a connection to the patriarchy, to the culture, to what is reported and what is allowed. We need cultural examination and consciousness raising about those things. Sorry about that phone. We need to educate families, especially younger generation. Especially we have to break the cycle of those things. Again, Indian mental health professionals can play a huge role in engaging communities in deeper conversations about this. Not in your office space. I think you can also become preventionists out there, having conversations about this, having forums, raising awareness. You may already be doing all that stuff. All those can pave way for transforming our culture and society. So the point is, we can do so much at the clinical level, but also I think as a topic, this has to be addressed. Like, for example, our president of the United States, such an aggressor. Psychological violence happens all the time. And So there are, he's doing it from that bully platform, bully pulpit, and the whole country is taking it. Of course, again, this such a, so basically, it's kind of normalizing in some ways for these kind of, for the aggressors. It's kind of crazy stuff. It drives me. I mean, it's a very sad, unfortunately. Anyway, I can say more about it. So, Jenny, please take me back to the common forum for questions. So I can. This is a time for questions, people. Intimate partner violence. What are your observations? What are the contributing factors, or what? Any question do you have for me at this time?
Seb,
Yep.
actually, this role of patriarchy, I have been thinking on these lines right from the beginning of your sessions when we spoke about egalitarian
Yeah.
concept of couple relationship. I'm questioning myself, does it really, is it something very ideological which we are expecting from the couples? Because we are so deep rooted in patriarchal forms.
Yeah.
Even the women,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, we ourselves need to understand, do we really have that egalitarian concept in ourselves? Do we treat ourselves that way?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we are all to be blamed, but
Yeah.
it started right at that point when you started your sessions on initial sessions. So
Egalitarianism. Yeah.
when it comes, yes.
Mhm.
So this is my reflection. So we
Great.
have
I mean,
to actually go
yeah,
at a
Madhura.
much deeper level.
Yeah, Madhura, absolutely. You're right. I mean, some of the models in the US, for example, egalitarianism has been accepted as a principle. People work it. But when it comes to our culture, I think what a therapist can do is create that consciousness raising opportunities within the couple context itself. Again, if a couple member is willing, because sometimes, we learn, narrative, the therapy models will talk about how the discourse, what we have been used to this kind of, we believe it's part and parcel of our culture. So what can happen, I'm asking is, in the context of the couple therapy, can we start that kind of process, saying that in what way do they consider each other as equal partners? Most often they may say that we are equal, but again their behaviors and all those things would exhibit something otherwise. So again, use it as an opportunity to change those kind of mindset. In other words, we can challenge these dominant discourses, the cultural discourses within the context of the couple therapy, just with the couple members. Again, you are not imposing anything. You're just being curious about. Again, when you work with the couples, we can have these kind of conversations with the view, hopefully, to take them to that egalitarian position. Because otherwise, marriage doesn't make much of a sense. I mean, of course, you can make babies, you can have families, you can pass it on. All those things are functions of marriage. At the same time, the most important function is how do they connect with each other? How do they grow in that relationship? How each one can be, as Susan Johnson talks about it, how my partner can be a healer for me, can be a supporter for me, create a holding environment for me to flourish. So I think those kind of conversations will happen only when we begin to challenge those hierarchy and talk about egalitarianism in the system. At least that's what I was suggesting, that maybe as a society we have to come together and look at the patriarchy and its impact on us. We have to start with our communities, or at least at the clinic level, we can have the conversation with that particular couple. If I am successful in creating one couple who decide to have egalitarianism among them, because both partners are educated, they have jobs, they have resources, they can make changes in that system. And then you are talking about creating a new generation of children in that kind of system. So it's high time for us. And I get so upset about when people, these patriarchal representatives, sometimes from the religion, sometimes from the cultural wisdom, sometimes kind of politicians including, they kind of perpetuate this kind of thinking. Unfortunately, in the meantime, our people are getting destroyed. Violent marriages are part of that processes. Does it make any sense, Madhura?
Yeah, and
I
for
have a question.
egalitarian to
Sure, yeah.
come to practice, it needs to be internalized, and
Exactly,
the
yeah.
process needs to begin somewhere, and
Yeah,
probably we can just initiate that process. And
exactly. You can initiate that conversation in the therapy room. They may not agree it, they may not buy it, it's a hard job. But again, I think when I work with the young people in India, when I was in Bangalore last year, they gave me a lot of hope the way that we used to have student discussion groups and stuff like that, again, they kind of brought these issues. They said, we want to be different. We think differently. We don't subscribe to these kind of things. So I'm hoping that the new generation will take it to the next level, critiquing this kind of, engage with the patriarchy and, this kind of, because, I mean, anyway, so I think, thank you, Madhura. Benedicta, you have a question.
Yeah. Regarding the family history of violence, what is the percentage? I think it's more in our culture in India, like in Asian culture.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the Indian statistics about this one. I don't know the Asian statistics about it. But again, in the US context, percentage varies depending on what generation of the people that you're talking about. So those statistics, exactness of the statistics, I don't know exactly. It kind of varies depending on what culture it is that we are dealing with. But I think history of family violence is a very critical component. Because that somehow gives this kind of belief system.
Yeah, because it is already set in there. How do we change it?
Yeah, again, through the conversations again, because the point is, that's why the therapy is very extremely important, because it breaks certain cycles. It raises consciousness. Consciousness raising is part of that kind of pedagogy in that sense. So again, one of the things already, Benedicta, is that if we do not examine certain patterns that we inherit, I'll talk about in the next one, Bovinian thing. We inherit these patterns, these belief systems intergenerationally. If we do not take time to question them, they never change. But if we question them, process it, we can break the cycle and we can move on. That's true for addiction. That's true for IPV. That's true for everything, pretty much. So I think that's where that's where the
partner should resist it from the very beginning, right?
What is that? Say it again. I'm sorry.
The partner the partner couple should resist in the very beginning. You take it for a while and you are taken for granted, isn't that?
Yeah, sometimes they take it for granted. Sometimes they say, this is not our problem. We are okay with that. My husband has the right to punish me. Sometimes people believe that. But again, my thing is, again, yes, that is true for you. That's what you've seen. But is that the way you want to live your life? Those are the hope I have, Benedicta, for the group is for you. I don't know. I'm just saying my thoughts about it. Today's generation is very different from 2 generations ago, because we are talking about highly intelligent and professionally trained couple members, both men and women. In the past, it was not the case. Men ran the whole show. She had to depend on him. If he kicks her out, she's on the street. But today, that's not the case, right? Because like most of my cousins,
very different. Right. I agree.
Most of my cousins are high-earning members. They make more. I'm talking about female cousins. They make much more money than their husbands. So again, they don't have to necessarily depend on the financial resources. Their families are supportive. So I think this is the high time for us, I think, to question these patriarchal systems, which kind of enslaves women. And then I think it's time. I think those kind of conversations can begin to happen in the therapeutic settings. That's why I said your role as therapist, your role as counselors is much bigger than in your clinic room. It is also in the community. So how do you engage those? Because we have to challenge it. That patriarchy doesn't serve us the way it is communicated to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Seb. I have a question.
Sure, Sarah.
And now, when it comes to interpartner violence, is it the partner who's actually the victim who comes to you first, or do they decide together and then approach you, or how does it happen in terms of therapy?
Yeah, Sarah, again, in the US context, what happens is that violence happened and the neighbors heard it often, and they call the police, 911, and the cops come in. Once the cops come in, then it becomes a legal issue, public information legal issue. Then rather than taking them to jail, we always give them a chance to work it out. So we have batterers group and all the kind of domestic violence. So usually it gets reported through the public, and the legal system mandates this person to go further, so that they come to therapy. Sometimes members, it's not they say, I'm done with this. Enough is enough, and I'm not going to put up with it. So I'm going to talk to the therapist about it. How do I? Because I want to get out of this relationship. I want to go for divorce. So they bring it up that way. In some cases, they say there is more psychological violence. We want to work on it, and he is reluctant in this case, but they come along. In some cases, we have Department of DCF, Department of Children and Families. Children call the police, or children become a victim because they've come to the shield. They come to protect mom, and then in the course of events, they kind of form a shield to protect, and they get beaten up. And when the kids go to school, the school teachers see the marks, and they call the cops. So again, there are multiplicity of ways. I've seen all kinds, depending on what it is, and usually there is usually they don't go to jail right away. There will be because it's a mental health issue often, family history, all those kind of factors, drugs and impulse control and all those things again. So they go in for treatment, and then they may serve some time in the prison.
Okay,
I don't know
so
about the Indian situation.
okay.
Yeah.
So who ideally who sends them to therapy? They come by themselves, or do the police?
Court, in some cases court, in some cases police, in some cases they make a deal with each other. I would withdraw my complaint as long as you go for therapy. So that then now he cannot say I refuse to go for therapy. No, this is a condition that you should go in for therapy, and we'll give it a try. If it works, it's worked. Otherwise, we'll go.
Please, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Sorry. And when I was doing my graduation, I studied criminology at Roshni, and I'd done a small study on domestic violence.
Yeah.
And this was in relation to how the police try to deal with it, and how much they know about what are the different kinds of domestic violence that happens. And I remember they said that most of the time the cops try to not really take action against the person who really commits it, and they encourage them to settle it among themselves. I was just thinking that maybe that's here in India. So maybe they could actually ask the couples to seek therapy or go for therapy, because when it comes from the side of the law, they're more or less compelled to. Otherwise, it would be like, they're just settling it there. So I think when law pushes the couples to seek therapy, probably then maybe these cases would reduce a little more, because India's not now maybe, but we know more or less that it seems to be much more patriarchal.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There are still issues with regard to violence among couples. So.
Thank you, Sarah. That's
women report. Not many women report about it also, because it's like a way of life.
Right. So. Underreported. And so I think that one of the things that I've seen, Sarah, is that here in the US is that there's a close connection between legal system, police, for the law enforcement, and mental health, community. So there's a lot of one informs each other. So because of that close, that has been happening because the policy changes and stuff like that happened in the last 15 years or so. So they work collaboratively with each other. Even though a police officer goes there, I mean, it sounds like from what you're describing to me is that police officer may be more cognizant about that, and they will try to encourage or the party to go for the treatment and all. If the police officer is kind of subscribing to patriarchy in some ways, probably they may not. So again, depends. It varies, right? But again, in the US context, it's not the case. If a case is reported, if a 911 call is reported, police will be involved. Automatically, a mental health professional also will be involved as part of the process. Again, that's the way the system is set up. Depends on each state that you're in. So again, that's and sometimes people don't even call, but the police is called. Then all these things will unfold in interesting ways.
So I'm sorry.
So we have 20 minutes more to go.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Let's move to the last one, Bovinian thing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. The last one of the day. Hopefully, I'll finish it soon, and then we can have some conversation, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, awesome. I was supposed to do it at length yesterday, but I did not because it's so much. So I cut it short to the bare minimum, so that Okay, Bowen Family Systems Couple Coaching. Most of you are familiar with Bowen Family Therapy. This again from Bowen Couple Coaching, which is slightly different. Okay, let's move to the next one. Assumptions are, of course, it's coming up. Our family of origin are deeply influential. That's what we've been hearing, right? Even from the family history advisor. What we experience in the family of origin will follow us wherever we go. Most of the most of the family therapy theories emphasize the importance of family of origin. Fu means family of origin. That's how we call it, Fu. Understanding couple members' family of origin is crucial when making interventions. Again, models always talk about your early socialization, your family of origin experiences, and all those things. Couple members have to know each other's, all those things. So we do genogram together in that sense to get the sense. Okay, next one. This is what I wanted to talk about again. Effective and ineffective strategies are passed from generation to generation. In other words, we learn many great things from our family of origin, and also crazy shit from our family of origin. It goes, we don't, like that. That's a kind of reality. And also, we have less autonomy in our emotional lives than we assume. We think that, oh, I'm a psychologist, I'm an educated person. All those things are true. At the same time, we are still deeply conditioned or influenced by what's happening. So in that sense, we have less autonomy unless you do the work, unless you do the consciousness raising and therapeutic work. Most of us are more dependent and reactive to one another than we like to think. I have seen it all the time. So again, people say, oh, I was not angry. But again, if you take the picture of you or the video of you, you were angry. Your voice is showing that. You're all those. Again, sometimes I know in my sessions I record and show them. So we are less, we are more dependent and reactive, not so much independent always. Okay, next one, please. Assumptions. Bowen encouraged couples to go back to their families of origin as adults and relate to members within as solid self. What does it mean? It means that imagine that you grew up in a family system where you are kind of messed up in all kinds of ways. If you have an opportunity, if your parents are alive, Bowen would say, that was a classical paper of Bowen in the 60s and 70s, would say, go back to your family of origin, finish that unfinished business, go back not as a child to your parent, go back as a solid self. As a solid self means not an arrogant self, but rather a person who can reason, person who can, engage with your partner and address some of those old business. The problem is, if you're not addressing the old unfinished businesses, it will be repeated in your new system. Does it make any sense? So again, sometimes, so it's important. So that's why we always encourage in the family therapy field, connect with your family of origin. Don't disconnect. Connect with it. Continue to grow in that relationship. Your father was bad to you, yes. Now he's older, but again, you don't have to be bad back to him or her. But again, engage with them, understand them, and really improve or repair that relationship in some ways, because that will do you a lot of good, in the sense that you will not perpetuate that in some ways, because with your children when you go around. So go back to the solid selves. We have Thanksgiving holidays. At that time, families traditionally go back to the family of origin and they have great festive dinner together. But often people are afraid. A lot of people come to our therapy session. I have to go back to my dad's mom's. I'm going to visit them. I'm so scared because when I go there, I'm 45-year-old now, but I go there, I feel like a 5-year-old. All those kind of things come back to me, and I'm afraid. But I know when I get out of it, I'm mad and sad, and I want to confront my dad. But when I go in front of him, I'm like a little baby, and my wife makes fun of me for not being standing up to her. So again, those kind of things, again, go back. So say, as solid selves. Solid means people who are really able to stand in many ways and engage, not aggressive. Next one, please. I'll talk about 3 things and then I'll end it here. So Bowen talks about 7 things. I'm not going to get it. Highlight. I'm going to take on 3 things. Differentiation of the self, emotional triangles, and emotional cutoff. So let's move to the next one. I'm not talking about everything. This is Bowen concepts, but again, yeah. Can you move to the next one? What is differentiation? We talk so much about differentiation. What is differentiation? For Bowen, this is the fundamental thing to be married. Bowen say, if you want to be married, you have to be differentiated. Date people, get to know them, but don't get into committed relationship unless you're beginning to differentiate. What does it mean? Differentiation is the ability of the individual to express my personal view or individuality and act autonomously, at the same time staying emotionally connected. What it means is, I'm in a conversation with my partner. If I'm not differentiated, I will just agree with her all the time because she's more powerful. I will agree with him. I will not say my views. I will not say my position. My wife is very good with that. She's very differentiated. That scared the shit out of me in the beginning, first of all, because she could stand up and tell me exactly what she thinks about it. She's not afraid of it. And also, she's staying connected in that sense. Differentiation is the capacity to think and reflect and not to respond automatically to emotional pressures. People may have all, I don't know about your experience, you may have all thought about everything, what you should say to your boss, what should you say to your this and all. But when you go in front of the boss, you are so scared and you cannot think about it. You are kind of frozen and you go by what they say. That's an undifferentiation. So again, differentiated people don't fall for those kind of pressures from that other system. And this applied in the family, in the couple relationship, especially when it comes to aggressive partners. Next one, please. People with poorly differentiated self depend so heavily on the acceptance and approval of others. I've seen it in many times in job settings, even in couples. Like partners are so afraid of each other. Like I talked to you about that particular case before, the hidden realities. Like they kind of, she didn't want to upset her husband. She didn't want to tick him off, like those kind of piss him off in all kinds of ways. She held on. She kind of agreed with him, but again, she has a lot of issues with that. She never talked about it until for several years. Next one, please. Undifferentiated people quickly adjust what they think and say, and they do to please others. They dogmatically proclaim what others should be like. Again, we see these kind of things. Oh, he's your husband. You cannot challenge him that way. Mother-in-laws or mothers would say that. Those are really problematic. Again, help. In order to be married to a person, in order to live in that system, people have to be really differentiated. That's why I say, in our field, we say, work on yourself first before you are going to get into the most important relationship in your life, hopefully. You're going to invest into that relationship. Can you stand up for yourself? Can you speak your mind? At the same time, loving that person. Again, if we don't stand up for ourselves, then you will be destroyed in that relationship. You will be subsumed in that relationship. So differentiation is a very important part. I cannot emphasize it enough. Our culture does a bad job on that one. They do not produce differentiated people. We think of differentiation as disloyalty. If I stand up for myself and speak up, then you're not part of the group. You're not part of this family. That's kind of bad. That's kind of messed up. That's why I said psychologists, therapists, counselors, and family, social workers, we have to do a lot of work on our communities and people. Next one, please, Jen. Triangles. Triangulation. This is a messed up system. Again, let's look at this. Triangulation in the couples, we see that triangulation always. It's a three-person interaction in which the tension and conflict experienced by two people, my wife and I, are fighting with each other, and we're so escalated, and we drag a third person. Usually it's a kind of from another generation, which is my child. I ask my child to side with me, and I dump it down. I say, don't you see that your dad is a jerk? Don't you see that your dad is unreasonable? Kind of, I get her alliance and then bring that down. I think that this kind of problem. The problem here is what Bowen's talking about. Triangulation is good, healthy sometimes, because it helps you diffuse your anxiety, because it gives you some relief. But choosing your child for that against your dad, against her father or his father, that's really problematic. So triangulation happens, if it happens consistently, that's really problematic. I don't know, all of us do this, right? For example, you had a bad experience with somebody in your office and you're so mad, you're so upset about it, and you call your friends. Hey, guess what? That bitch or whatever, that guy, this is what it is. How dare is he? Like, again, I kind of, when I say that, I talk to the third person, I feel good about it. I kind of diffuse, it's kind of therapeutic in a way. It helps for me. But if it happens, suppose it happens in the family, I'm upset with my husband and I triangulate with my child to let the steam off. What kind of learning the child has about her father? Those kind of, so if it happens consistently in the family, it really destroys the relationship in some ways. Many times children are estranged, and it happens in divorced families, I see, because we do kind of a lot of mediation. The kid is staying with dad, or kid is staying with mom. Dad tells the kid, you know what, your mom is a whore. She kind of prostitutes, she fucks around, all those kind of things. Sorry for using that kind of language. And then the kid is 6-year-old, 7-year-old, kind of inappropriate information for the child. And kids grows in that kind of information. Kid has no contact with dad. And she's 18. Dad is trying to reach out to the kid. And He says, I have nothing to do with you, because she has been believing all that the other parent has talked about. So again, a lot of estrangement between kids and parents happen because of this. So triangulation is kind of messy stuff. Bowen says it's a good thing as long as it's temporary. But if you have an issue about your partner, take it to somebody else, not to your children. Triangulating with your child is problematic. Next one, please. You can run it. Next one. I talked about it. Next one. Emotional cutoff. This is the last thing I would say. The concept of emotional cutoff. I think this is what I was talking about earlier. Unfinished businesses. We have problems with our parents. We grow up in a family system, and then we get mad. We don't have any power to stand up against them because we still financially depend on them. But when I have my education, when I have my job, I run away from them. I have nothing to do with them. Emotional cutoff. I have nothing to do with them. I'm done with my dad. I'm done with my mom. Now I'm independent. That's it. I know some of my cousins have done that. Some of the people that I know have done that. The problem is, Bowen would say, is that yes, it worked for you for now, but guess what? You have some unfinished businesses. When you get into the relationship, long-term relationship with your partners and all, those unfinished businesses will come alive. So that's why Bowen would say, go back and finish that unfinished business with your family of origin first, if you can, if they are still alive or dead, or not dead, or finish it in the therapeutic process context. Otherwise, you will perpetuate this kind of emotional disconnect. Emotional cutoff happens, like think about stonewalling, right? Stonewalling, Bowen talked about, I have nothing to do with my partner. Whether she's dead or alive, she's alive, I don't care. Whether she's, I don't care about what it is, but we live in the same household. I won't talk to her. These are all signs of emotional cutoff. Something happened in the family of origin. That's what Bowen would say. So emotional cutoff is a big deal, and I think as a clinician, I always try to be mindful of those kind of, is there any emotional cutoff? Is there any triangulation going on? Is there any differentiation related issues in the couples? Often I see all of them, the couple relationship. All of them escalate into conflicts in all kinds of ways, or disengagement with each other. I think I'll end it here now. We have 7 minutes. I think I said all that I was planning to say. There are more to talk about it, but again, I want to... People breathe in for a few seconds, and I gave you an overload of information. We talked about Gottman's. We talked about... what did I talk about? I don't even remember what I talked about. The emotionally focused couple therapy, Susan Johnson, intimate partner violence, IPV, and then this Bovinian things. There's so much to chew, so much to think about. What are you thinking? What is going on with you?
Sir, may I?
Sure, please. Deepa.
Sir, I would just wanted to ask a question, continuing with, just to add on to Sarah's question, what she had asked, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, when you said in the West, it is the police and the legal aspects, or who send the couples to counseling.
Yeah.
How is the therapeutic bond, sir, or how does the therapy, the acceptance of the therapy, how does it happen when it is, being pushed into, and not, they come willingly? How does the therapy work?
That's a great question, because I think there is a lot of distortions and misunderstanding about that. Like when people are forced into therapy or mandated therapy, if the legal system or law enforcement is mandating, then how willing would they be in participating in the therapeutic process? Guess what? I have some news for you. They may be reluctant in the beginning, but therapy works. That's why the law enforcement is extremely important for us, especially in the case, like, say we have anger management programs or therapy processes, or again, we report to the not the content of what's happening in the therapeutic rooms. That's a confidential factors. How often they came, how engaged were they in the process, and these reports have to go to the court at the end of the 12th session. Sometimes therapists would say, this person needs to work a little more on certain issues, but we won't mention what the issues are, because those are the confidential, information for us. So that kind of accountability. So just because he's mandated, it doesn't mean that, he can just walk out, or he can just be done with that. What we found is, even though they are reluctant and resistant in the beginning, because of the skill of the therapist, because of the way of engagement, therapeutic alliance, and all those factors that we talk about, there is a change that happens, and they begin to appreciate. And often, what happens in our clinic, we have a low-income clinic, family therapy clinic at our university. They come to us, and they want, after this anger management protocol or BATFR kind of intervention programs are over, they want to continue in therapy because they begin to see the result. They begin to see the history of family. They realize that I can change things in my life. I don't have to live in this kind of situation. So there's a lot of, so mandated clients change their minds. But now again, not all of them though. Most of the cases that has worked for us. And there's a lot of interesting research about that as well. That is true for addiction too. People are forced into addiction treatment, and they are reluctant, resistant, and all those kind of things. But again, they change. The therapeutic processes is very exciting and interesting. People have a lot of misunderstanding about the shrink is going to tell me what I'm going to do. Oh, shit, no, I'm not. But that's their own misunderstanding about the therapy. I think once it all depends on the skill and the engagement style of the therapist. So many things happen. I hope that I answered your question. So mandated clients do change internally, and they want to stay, because which human being will resist an opportunity to grow and flourish if there's an opportunity for that? And I think that happens in the course of time. And I think law enforcement system has done a better job, but of course we can do better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We have 3 more minutes.
So this is Akila.
Yes, Akila.
In the Indian context, sometimes the parents encourage the woman to stay on in abusive relationships, even though they know what's happening, and because of society pressures and stigma attached to divorce. I know a case where the couple got divorced, and then again the parents sent her back. He was very violent with her. So how do you help these people? Because the parents, she doesn't have a support system, and they got her married at a very young age, when she just finished 18, in spite of them being from a well-off family. So she obviously, she's not able to get a job or whatever, and all the property was given to the husband. So he has all the property, and the parents are also not supporting her. So it becomes very difficult to help this person.
Yeah. So I think that is I mean, as I said before, this is a much bigger problem. Again, how the parents set up the whole thing, how they force her or seduce her to go back into the same violent system. I think what we can do is limited, but again, we can do something in terms of, for example, one thing we can do is, when that person comes into therapy, we can provide empathy, and then the listening ear, and all those things, and also can be healing for that person, at least although there is no solution to the problem. But my hope is that as they engage with you as a therapist, as they engage, they begin to hear that or experience that empathy. Healing happens at the same time. That healing, the secure attachments that created between the therapist and the client, may give that person some sort of confidence to pursue some personal interest, and then stand up on self, and then maybe eventually, hopefully, to leave. I'm not saying that they should leave, because there are many cultural factors. I'm fully aware of all those factors. At the same time, something can be done.
So that complicates the problem.
Exactly. Right. So I think you're right. Those are many complicating factors. At the same time, I think when people realize there's a lot of divorce happening in India, which is, for me, it's a good news. Good news, although some circles may think of it as bad things, it is a good news in the sense that destruction of life is almost getting over. I'm not talking about
in cases like this. I think it makes sense, because he is physically and sexually abusive.
Psychologically,
because if her parents were more supportive, she could have probably not continued in the relationship, and the children also get traumatized.
Absolutely. Right. Can you imagine a child growing in that violent family system? And for outside, we're all family together. But the amount of destruction that happens to the child, to the members in the system. And I think, I had a family, one of my cousins, same, she's working for Target. She's one of the VPs, big person in Indian context. I won't mention where. And she was in an abusive relationship for about 17 years. She doesn't have any children. That's a good thing in that case. And it took her 17 years to leave him. And they're not divorced yet, but again, still she's kind of, and my wife is always on that case. So basically I'm saying, like, that's a hard thing. And she was afraid of parents' responses. But again, we had to do a lot of work. So it's a kind of such a messy road. But I would say, yes, empathy created in the therapeutic room itself is the beginning stage. That empathy can lead way to her self-realization, maybe challenge some of the systems. And I would suggest that, keep working. And I think one thing I would say, we have a long way to go, people, in our community. Our society is all, although we say Arsha Bharadam, and I have great respect for all that stuff. But when it comes to these kind of clinical realities, because we see the worst, right? You and I, we see the worst in the intimate form of the therapeutic system, the amount of destruction, the amount of violence, the amount of craziness. And in the name of that discourse, everything is well and good, fine and dandy. That's bullshit for saying that. That is crazy to me. Somebody has to call shots for that. I think the good news is that some religious figures and people are like, they are getting more educated about it. They are beginning to address some of these things in those kind of. We need a massive re-education is important for our community.
I think education and independence probably will help the women in our country.
Exactly. That's my hope for the new generation. Look at them. Most of them are educated. They have jobs, which is half the battle is over. Once you bring money into the resources, then you have voice. Voice on the table. Otherwise, those kind of, again, we have to train our young people, young daughters. I mean, my daughter, all of us, we have to train our young daughters and children to understand this cycle, this worldviews. And we need to have a spiritual reformation and cultural reformation. All those things need to happen. Again, you guys can do that. Your role is not in the therapy room, I would say. Your role is in the community out there, in the marketplace, as preventionists, educators of society, people who raise consciousness. I think we are great people. We can do things. We don't have to continue to go by the old. Yeah, that's what I'm sorry for being preachy. It gets me nuts, actually.
Yes, these are real issues which we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure. Yeah. You can ask me. I'm done with the session, but you can ask me. Yes, Rosa, please, and we'll see. And Jennifer, is it okay? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, please.
How successful are the interventions? How successful, I mean, by the therapeutic interventions in IPV? And is there any research findings to support this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of, there's a lot of interesting research. People, what we have found is, let me summarize it. What we have found is when men, I work with a lot of groups and also researchers, there's a lot of Australia, New Zealand, a lot of research. What we see is in the context of the psychoeducational programs, mandated psychoeducational programs, mandated therapeutic systems, people begin to look into their own patterns, their own kind of ways of functioning. Once they know the history, once they know they are sort of victims, even the perpetrators of violence are also victims, right? Because they are the victims in some ways, at least some level. Once that awareness comes in, people change. People want to be connected. Because what happens in violence is, like, often men lose their right to see their children. That's a huge loss for them. Again, those could be the leverages for us to really negotiate around these things. So I have seen, even research, I've been talking about that, people change. People change they take more responsibility for their behavior. They take more responsibility for their change. And those changes bring people together. At least they reconnect with their children in some ways, and maybe change their ways as they move forward in other relationships. Change happens. But the problem is, if it is unquestionably, if it is perpetuated, if there is no systems to hold them accountable, it will be perpetuated to the next generation, and we lose many people. Violent system. Rashmi, I have seen craziness in the world. I mean, all of us know that. We are clinicians. We see the worst, right? We see this, yeah, this is kind of crazy. But the mainstream society lives in the lullaby, everything is fine and dandy. Oh, our tradition is amazing. Oh, India is wonderful. Or the US is great. Bullshit. I mean, there's a reality underneath all this kind of bullshit. I'm sorry for saying that word. My wife will be upset about this. I shouldn't say this. Okay, clinicians, we can. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
So yes, it was a wonderful interactive session, sir. But we are 6 minutes off the.
Right. So we'll call it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer, for helping me for navigating all this. So maybe, probably they should see this video at some point. Maybe. So by the way, I'll make all these things slides available to all of you actually. So I'll just.
Okay.
So you will have all those things. I forgot to tell you that in the beginning. All right.
I've shared the links as well, so then they can go back and check the videos later.
Correct. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
Hi. So Jennifer,
tomorrow.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. The last one. And Jennifer, Wilsey, and Rosa, we can meet for a few minutes, right? After this, everybody's gone.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for all the questions. I'm so sorry I couldn't answer all of them because of the time factor, but yes, we will see it. Thank you. So just the 4 of us now, or 5? Yay.
The 4 of us.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. I'll just stop recording the session. Just a minute.
Sure.